What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. I'm your host, Rexx Ruger, watching my back as always. You know him, you love him, you fear him. At least you better. El Flaco Explosivo, a.k.a. the Alexis Arguello puppet right there. We're back with another banger of an episode, but then again, aren't they all bangers? Rhetorical question. Yes, they are. You guys know what we do here, the most amazing and real boxing conversations anywhere. We just chop it up here, folks. We just chop it up. And you know who we chop it up with? Legends, luminaries, world champions, and fighters on the come up. They all come in here to chop it up with your boy, Reckless Rex. And today is no different. We got a good young fighter coming in here, man, who's on a hell of a win streak. He's here now. We're going to get down to it and chop it up, man. Let's go. Andre, what's up, man?
Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you, man. I appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you, first and foremost, man. It's always good to have young fighters on here, man. I always tell people, man, as much as I love having the OGs and the legends on here, what really charges me up, man, is having young fighters, man. I mean, you guys are the future of the sport.
I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not really super young, I'm 28 years old, but I feel like I got a lot to offer still. So
I'm glad you said that, man, because opinions always varied, man. You always used to hear about a guy who was an athlete, was in his prime when he was young. I've had a lot of guys on here recently that are still doing it well into their 30s, their 40s. We see guys like Canelo and Bud and Alexander Usyk, a lot of guys that are up there in age, still fighting at a high level. At 28 years old, where do you feel like you are in terms of your prime?
I feel like I just entered my prime. I did between, 27 and 21. I think I did a super amount of growing. And I think that's very important for the young fighters. Some people get thrown in there, too fast and they can't control the money aspect or whatnot, or they fight a bunch of ducks and then they fight somebody who's experienced and well seasoned and then they get exposed. So I think, I took the longer route, but I feel like it's going to pay off still for us in the end. So I'm excited.
And how early on in life did you get a pair of boxing gloves on?
13 years old, actually. So I tried out for the wrestling team because the little city I'm from, they're big in wrestling, and I did well until I wrestled somebody with the last name who was actually pretty good, and I didn't like that feeling. So I was kind of told about a boxing gym, because I like to fight, and they're like, if you want to fight, why don't you go box? And I'm like, okay, where's it at? They pointed me in the right direction, and I was there from 13 to 16, I think, and then I took a little 2-year hiatus to kind of be a wild young kid and get in a bunch of trouble. And I actually went back at 18 and I did a fight and I ended up losing, and then I went back out and did my little thing and got incarcerated, and I got out at 20, and from 20 I went back to the gym. And, I think I did 3 years as an amateur, and then right around COVID, we went pro. And, I've been a professional for about 4 years now.
Do you feel like it came naturally, man? Like, were you good with your hands already?
Yeah. I always felt like being small growing up, I had something to prove. And everybody I ran with, they were all corn-fed bigger guys. And, they'd never sugarcoated anything. They made me who I am. The toughness you see in the ring, that came from them. They made me durable, because I wanted to hang out with the big cats. So.
And when you start boxing, man, like, are you watching boxing on TV, and are you looking up to any guys? When we're growing up, or we get into a sport, you kind of have those sports idols, those guys you look up to.
Yeah. So I was really infatuated with old school boxing, like Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Jake LaMotta. Jack Dempsey. Like, I enjoyed the black and white films a lot.
You're an old soul.
Yeah. That just because I felt like I grew up in the Mayweather era, and that was before I understood boxing. I was like, oh, that's not how I want to fight. That's not how you fight. That's how you run.
Right.
And so the old school legends stuck out to me because they actually stood toe to toe, and they were very durable, and they put in the hard work with no like fancy gadgets or anything like that.
Right.
And now the age I'm at now, I can look back at a Mayweather fight and I could see the sweet science and all that. And he's he's a legend in his own right. And he boxes beautifully, and that's kind of what I'm trying to learn how to do is box now because I think fighting did come naturally to me, and I that's kind of like my gear is just to fight. But
Yeah.
I'm very skillful as a boxer, and I want to show that.
What about current fighters? Who are some of the guys that are doing it right now that you enjoy watching?
Oh man, I loved when Lomachenko came in to the scene. That was kind of like my next obsession. Him and Canelo Alvarez. After Canelo lost to Mayweather, I was obsessed with him. And then Lomachenko came on the scene, and I was obsessed with him and his footwork and all that sporadic movement, angles. Like that was my thing. Yeah. And then recently, it's been Gervonta Davis because I think he's matured a lot as a person. And despite that last fight he had with Lamont Roach, which now I'm a Roach fan.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like I like seeing growth in people, and I think he's putting himself in a good position to exit the sport.
And now you're on if I'm not mistaken, right, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, you're on a hell of a streak right now, though, man. You had a no contest in 2022, but if I have my stats right, man, you had a loss in 2021 and 22, and now you're on like an 11-fight win streak.
Yeah, it should be 12 fight because that no contest, man, I think they saved him because it was a accidental headbutt, and I had puffed his eye up with my right hooks and jabs. And we just clashed heads, and it kind of did it and opened it up. And I think they took the right smart route out to protect their fighter. But anybody who was there will tell you that I was whooping. I was winning. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is unfortunate because, and I bring that up on here a lot, man. We do still see some pretty deplorable decisions sometimes. Is that anything as a young fighter that's in the back of your mind? Because obviously it can affect you financially. It can affect the trajectory of your career. You know what I mean? So, suddenly you're cruising along. You're a young fighter. You're 10-0. You're 11-0. You're 15-0. Then suddenly you get some shitty-ass decision and you're going the opposite way.
I think it's, life's like a boxing match to me. So ideally you want to win every round, but you don't necessarily win every round. So, my losses kind of set me back at first, but then I took it as, okay, I lost that round. And I've kind of just been, looking forward and looking up, and it's, I've been doing well. I'm not letting that loss, define me who I am. They were just some bad decisions. And I feel like you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Especially these people who build their records and they're 21-0, 15-0, and then they end up taking a loss against a decent opponent. Like this is boxing, but it's you're going out there and you're fighting. So if you can't fight, you can only box. You're gonna have a hard time. You have to adjust.
Well, you seem to have a pretty good, attitude, and obviously you dealt with the losses early on in your career, man. Did you have to dig deep down? Like, where'd you find the perseverance, to take a couple of L's early on and keep on pushing on? That would deter a lot of people. I think a lot of people I don't think would have the strength to push on. That's a credit to you for sure.
Well, I'd like to think I lost in the best way. My second loss, I believe, I actually won. I won the first round, and I come out and got knocked down in the second. And after I got knocked down, I didn't stop punching. You can go back. I wish I could find that fight, but I didn't stop punching for the next 3 rounds. And anybody who watched it would tell you that I won. But a hometown kid, he knocked me down. He had a perfect record, so I understand it. I get the game, but I think that was the best way to lose because in my heart, I knew I didn't lose. And it kind of opened up other people's eyes for me. I think that gave me a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
The first fight I lost, I think I was way out of my weight class, and it was kind of a curve for me and my coach at the same time. I had my 2 cents, but I trust my coach, and we went out there. And the only thing I took from that fight was I can hang with people at 138 pounds. He gave me his best shot, and I ate it, and I kept fighting.
So currently you're at bantamweight, correct?
Yeah, correct. Actually, we've been at super flyweight, but the last couple of fights we had to adjust our weight and move up. So
yeah,
I'm kind of floated. I just want to make my statement, and more weight classes, more opportunities, right?
Where do you feel like your ceiling is at? Like, oh, only you know your own body, man. How high could you see yourself going?
Um, I'm not too sure. Right now I want to say 122 is my cap, but as I get older, it's probably going to get more difficult to lose the weight or whatnot. So I'm not too sure how that's going right now. I just know between 115 and 122 is game to go.
Now, I always encourage boxing fans on here, to explore and watch fighters at the lower weights. I think sometimes fans forget that there's any weight divisions under 135 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like certain weight divisions are focused on, 135, 140, welterweight and above. But there are some tremendous fighters, and it's nice to see them starting to crack the pound for pound list now. We're seeing guys like, Bam Rodriguez and Junto Nakatani. You know what I mean? We're starting to see some of these guys at lower weights start to crack the pound for pound list.
Yeah, it's I think the sport's forever evolving, and at one point it was all about the heavyweights, that was the rage, and then it seemed to be the middleweights, and now it's welterweights, lightweights, and like you said, now bantamweights and smaller guys are getting their turn. It's just it's the cycle, and I'm blessed to be a part of the movement right now and what's going on in the lower weight classes.
Now, another Ohio guy, who's a polarizing topic in the sport, and I'm curious to get your take on these Jake Paul type events. Are you a fan of these? I know they bring a lot of eyes to boxing. It's a polarizing topic when I bring it up on here. Some of the elder statesmen of the sport are very protective of the sport and say it's all a bunch of crap. But then there is a certain demographic of people who say, hey, what he's doing is good, more power to him. You know what I mean? He's making money. He's putting on events that are bringing eyes to the sport of boxing.
I think you hold yourself as the product in this game. So he seems to be marketing himself well, and you can't hate on somebody's shine and grind. So that'd be like me doing well and people hating on me for how I'm getting bad. Real boxing fans, enjoy real boxing, and I give him credit where it's due. He puts in the work and he gets in there. But there is that question about is it choreographed or not?
Right.
So, yeah, man, I'm happy he's getting a bag, and he seems to let other people eat too whenever he's, making money. He's giving good paychecks to boxers coming up, and you can't knock on that. So,
are you a guy who's given much thought to, your post-fight career? Like, there's a lot of guys who get into the sport that are very calculated, and whereas they say, I'm only going to fight to a certain age, or I'm only going to fight X amount of fights, or are you kind of just playing it by ear at this point?
I've actually been kind of thinking about that, post career, lately. I'm still, I think I'm getting better with behind the scenes and everything outside of the ring. So, I probably want to own my own business and, maybe some properties or even buy a farm. But that's all after all this. Right now my goal is getting to the top and then getting them big name fights and proving myself in the sport in my weight class.
And so, are you still able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I was switching up my microphone because I was getting a little bit of feedback from this one. So, are there any particular? Well, first of all, you had 4 fights apiece in 2023 and 2024. You've already fought 2 times in 2025. How active would you like to be this year? How many more fights would you like to get in, ideally?
Ideally, man, let me get 3-4 more fights in.
3-4 more. Okay.
Yeah, but we kind of just playing it by ear, and like I feel like I'm in good shape right now, and I'm even looking forward to like a gamble fight. Somebody call me on short notice. That's like, I think that's where I'm at right now in my career. And like I said, I still got a lot to prove, boxing side wise, but I think I can fight on any day. I can jump off the couch and get it in.
What's the short notice, man? Like, what's the short notice in terms of saying, okay, that's too short? Obviously, we saw it come into play back in February in the Saudi Arabia card. We saw Josh Padley step in against Shakur. Held his own for a little while, man, but changed his life also.
Yeah.
And then we saw Martin Bakoli do it on that same card. Didn't turn out so good.
Right. I don't know. I've kind of just been letting God, guide me. I don't know if you're, a believer, but
Sure.
it's God's timing. It's not mine. There's been times where I'm like, I'm super ready and I've sat on, the shelf. And there's been times where, I super doubted myself and I was kind of just thrown into the fire and I came out, unscathed and on top. So it's whatever he feels, and he makes everything happen around me for me.
Are you superstitious at all? In terms of like, you've got an 11 fight even without the no contest, even say even 12 fight streak.
Yeah.
I mean, like, are you doing anything specifically? In terms of like, what's your mindset when you're in the midst of a streak like that? Like, I mean, like when you show up to a fight, you know what I mean? Do you have like a ritual that you go through to say, everything's going so well, I want to keep this streak going.
I mean, I think it's just, coming in every time like I'm nobody. I don't really think about my win streak. I don't think about, the person I'm fighting as far as like his status or how he enters a room and what people do. Because to me, I think my superstition is making sure I worked hard. And if I know whenever I walk into that ring, if I put in enough work and, I've gotten lucky sometimes, but most of the time it's just putting the work in the gym and then showing up there. And it's like nothing they've done is, going to stop me. Like if they want to beat me, they got to earn it. And they're going to remember Andre Donovan whenever they leave that ring. So.
And what's the end game in terms of like, what is the big picture, man? Like, are we talking about at some point wanting to fight on the world title stage?
Yeah, man. I never thought I would get this far. I come from a small, rural town, and we never thought that we was gonna be on a 11 fight win streak, 12 fight win streak. So I just keep listening to the people around me, and they just tell me, you do your job, we'll do ours. And if a world title is at the end of that road, then yeah, that's what I want. But right now, I just want another fight. I'm ready to get back there.
And so give a shout out to the team. Like, has the team and the people that are surrounding you, has it always been the same core group?
Yeah, for the most part, my man Mike Walters he has his little promotion. I can't think of it right now, and I apologize for that. But T County Boxing Academy, my coach Lee Kreischer, my cousin's childhood best friend AJ Materna, like them are the three main guys that I listen to when it comes to the fight game. And they kind of point me in the right direction, and they even help me. They're like kind of like my therapist sometimes whenever things get too hard or overwhelming. They kind of ground me again. So.
And now, since the losses, man, how do you explain? I know you don't want to put a lot of focus on it, man, but you are on a win streak right now, man. Like, what's changed since when you got those losses? 3 and 4 years ago, man. Like, how have you changed as a fighter, man, to ensure that now you're on this winning streak and you're not losing? I mean, what's different about you as a fighter now, man? Like, where have you grown? What's changed?
I think it's kind of like my why, man. Life happens for all of us, good and bad, and there's a lot of things that went south that I don't really talk about. I just kind of channel it into the gym.
Yeah.
And so my why is my family, most specifically my kids, and I'll do anything to be there for them, to show up for them. And right now, only thing holding me back from doing that in the future would be financial stability. So I think that's kind of changed for me. I know if I keep winning, I keep getting job opportunities. So every time I ace, a job opportunity or interview, which I call a fight, like then I get another opportunity.
Yeah. And was there ever anybody who tried to step in and deter you from fighting? I know a lot of times when parents are involved, you get a lot of guys, fathers, who are gung-ho for the son to fight, but then a lot of mothers aren't really crazy about the idea of their kid getting punched in the face for a living, you know what I mean? Or a girlfriend or a wife or a mother. Was there anybody who said, hey, Andre, don't do this?
I don't think nobody ever said don't do it, but there's, some people who, felt neglected because I pour so much into my craft.
Yeah.
and for good reason, because people die in that ring, so
Sure.
you have to take it seriously. I've never been one of the people to just glorify fighting and beating up people who can't fight and thinking that I'm good. I always want to be prepared. So if I'm not at work, I'm in the gym. If not in the gym, I'm with my kids. So there's really no in between. Um, so yeah, I think it'd just be the people who felt like, they weren't getting enough attention.
Now, obviously, there's a business side and sometimes even a shady side to boxing. Now, like, what do you have for kids, girls or boys?
I got two boys and one girl. I got a 9-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
And now, as a father, how would you feel if the point in time comes when one of the boys, or the girl, I guess, I mean, came to you and wanted to box?
They actually, so my two youngest have been in the gym since they were 6 months and 3 months. And then my oldest boy, he's been in the gym since he was 3. So they've kind of, been in it all their life, and they take a liking to it, but I never forced it on them. I tried to train my oldest kid at one point, and he didn't seem to like it. So we just let it go. But now he's
Yeah.
back in the gym, and he's taking, a liking to it again. So, whatever they want to do, if they want to be, scientists or something, I'll learn with and learn how to be smart. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's whatever they want to do. You want to, encourage them to be who they are, not who that is.
Especially with boxing, because boxing really is a huge commitment. You know what I mean? Like, they should find their way to boxing, man, and want to be doing it because they want to do it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it is one of those things that, like, obviously, like, being someone who does it, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
You can't have your fun on the weekends and then expect to make it all up in 5
No.
days. It's
discipline and diet and, hitting the gym and road work and all that kind of stuff, man. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of times, people are like enamored with the idea of, oh, it sounds great to be a fighter. Whether you're boxing or you're doing MMA, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds like a glorious career. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I get to beat people up for a living, man. But you got that part of the fight, but then there's everything else that leads up to the fight,
Yeah, I think what I didn't realize is now I'm a figure, in my community.
Yeah.
And people, whether I like it or not, people take what I say and do, a little more seriously. So that's kind of something that nobody really takes into consideration either. Is all the eyes on you, and now you're held to a higher standard. You gotta remain a role model to the youth.
And now, what's the boxing scene like where you are in Ohio? Like, I mentioned Jake Paul, and I mean, I'm not a huge Jake Paul fan. I just happen to know that he's an Ohio guy. I think he's Cleveland, Ohio. But is there a boxing scene and other guys in that area?
Yeah, man. You ever heard of Marcus Noll, Ohio Runs Boxing?
No.
Okay, well, he runs Ohio Runs Boxing, his social media pages, and he kind of sheds light on the Ohio boxing scene.
Okay.
But you obviously have, your people from Cincinnati, Aaron Pryor. Did AB come from there, or was he just training down there?
No, AB's a Cincinnati guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then even Rashid Warren, he come from down there.
Yep.
He was in my weight class. So you got them guys, and then you go up north, and you got Cleveland fighters. You got Abdullah Mason. You got the heavyweight. I can't think of his name. There's a couple people from Ohio that have made it world title runs and been on the high stages, but I'm not too sure as far as like nationally and the amateurs and stuff like that, because I didn't do much amateur tournaments or anything. I kind of got thrown into this national scene in Golden Gloves one year, and then after that we went pro a year after. So
not much of an. So you didn't have much of an extended amateur career then?
No, not at all.
No.
I think I was 29-3 as an amateur with club shows and whatnot in my book. So.
And so, I don't know if this is something you can answer or not, man, but, is there a timeline on like when you would like to throw your hat into the ring or have your team throw your hat into the ring or a time when you feel like you would be ready to for a world title fight? I mean, would it be in the next couple of years? Because obviously like now, like we see guys, I'm 52 years old. So I remember a time when you had to have a lot of fights, 20, 25 fights before you were getting world title shots. Now we're seeing guys, you know, in their 12th, 13th fight, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they're in world, you know, they're getting belts.
Right. I don't think I have that kind of team behind me to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with, you know, having 20, 25 fights before I get my shot.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I'm hungry and why I want more fights, you know, per year, and or just to have a steady, you know, 4 or 5 fights every year, because I'm not getting any younger. And by the time I do, you know, make that 25 mark, how old will I be? You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's all, you know, you don't want to be too old, but you don't want to be too young. So like I said, I'm just putting in God's hands, and if I never make a world title, you know, I think I'm okay with what I've done in my city, and you know, for my kids. At the end of the day, as long as I'm financially stable, I'll be all right.
That's a healthy outlook. That's a healthy outlook, though, you know, because you know, you do get a lot of guys, man, who are really grinding and really pushing and like really concerned with, you know what I mean, like, you know, attaining a certain status in the sport, you know what I mean. But I think the way you're doing it, you know, a natural progression, you know what I mean, like what comes along, what opportunities come along, you know, you cross that bridge when you come to it, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, what
Yeah.
can you do? You know, you can't really, you know, you can't really force the issue, you know. I mean,
No, because I want to stay authentic. I don't want to, you know,
yeah,
have a persona that's fake, you know, or you know, be like a Jake Paul or like all these
right,
people who want to be like Floyd, like Muhammad Ali, and I mean, it sells tickets, but I seen Teofimo Lopez do it. Like he went from somebody I was like, I like this guy. He's, you know, he's good, to he took a couple losses or what, and he tried to come back and you know, run his mouth on social media and get
yeah,
all this attention for what? Like,
yeah,
no, publicity is good public, like, or all attention, whatever. Like
yeah,
I don't want to be that kind of person. So, you know, I just
yeah.
want to remain me, and just kind of give myself to the sport, and you know, hopefully get something in return, and hopefully, you know, it'd be cool to leave my legacy and people, you know, remember me for boxing. But if that don't happen, then that's okay.
And so, do you have a date for your next fight? You obviously just picked up a win on April 19th, a TKO win, man, and congratulations on that.
Thank you. We're searching, man. I don't know. I'm hoping sometime in June, but if not, July for sure. If I have to call people out on social media, I guess I'll do that. But no.
That's some, you know what? Unfortunately, man, that is what it comes down to sometimes nowadays. You know what I mean? Like we are in that world right now. You know what I mean? Like where you see a lot of fights. You know what I mean? You know, the seed is planted on social media. You know.
Yeah. Thank God for social media, man. Though, because back in the day, we didn't have that. You know.
I know. You'd have to go to a guy's house, pound on his door, and talk shit to him. Might have to come to that. I don't know. I mean, and and so would you characterize yourself for people that haven't seen what you do? You know, you have 12 wins. 8 of them are knockouts. So a lot of people, you know, would obviously say, you know, wow, he can bang, man. You know, what would you rather be known for? You know, do you feel like that's an accurate description? You know, a knockout artist, or do you look at yourself as more of a technical boxer, a boxer puncher? What, you know, what would you categorize yourself as?
Uh, Me myself, I categorize myself as relentless.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion, but somebody would probably tell you I'm a puncher, boxer, or brawler. But yeah, I just think I'm relentless, and whatever you throw at me, I'm gonna make my adjustments, and I'm gonna keep coming. So you
Hey,
better
I'll
be.
tell you what, man. There's nothing wrong with the bad scores that we see turned in sometimes, man. To have the ability to knock people out, man. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
it can be dicey nowadays, man. Going to the cards, man. I watch a lot of boxing, man, and sometimes
Absolutely.
these scorecards, man, have me scratching my head. It's a
Yeah,
scary thing. It's a scary thing, man, and it can really change a guy's fortunes. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you got these guys sitting there with you know, with a boxer's future in their hands, and they don't always get it right,
yeah,
which is unfortunate.
yeah. I don't know. I hope that's not me, but you know, at the end of the day, like, you just go in there and you give your best, and you got to be happy with, you know, did you leave it all in the ring? If you
Right.
didn't, like, man, I could have did more, then you should have. Like, there's no reason why, you're in there and you feel like you're dying in the 8th round, and you're like, I can't get more. That's probably because you didn't do enough in the gym. So what's done in the dark comes to the light. So you get these people who could talk very well, and then they go in there and they get tested, and they're not where their mouth is. So
Right.
I do the work first, and then the performance is after. The performance is the result of what I did in the ring. I mean, in the gym.
And where are you now in terms of like length of fights? Like, are you at 6 rounders, 8 rounders, 10 rounders? Like where are you?
We just opened at 8.
Okay.
Right.
And so how many more 8 rounders would you like to have before you take that next step?
I'm not sure, man.
Not sure. Play it by ear.
Yep.
Yeah. That's good though, man. You've got a very grounded like approach, man, in your career, because you do see a lot of young guys, as I said, really trying to force it, man. Really trying to get somewhere in a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? And as you said, man, that might not be the intended plan.
Maybe they're just young and they're or anxious. And like I said, that just comes with the maturity of being in the sport and living this lifestyle. You kind of realize, you start seeing things for what they are instead of what
Absolutely.
Because they can sell you a sweet dream. So
yeah. Well, I also like that you haven't seemed like you've fallen victim to what I call, and I've heard other fighters on here call it, the Mayweather effect, where for a long time I think people thought that you couldn't be in the category of greatness if you had losses. You know what I mean? I think Floyd kind of spoiled us into thinking like, I'm undefeated, which automatically makes me the greatest, which we do see people like Muhammad Ali and Manny Pacquiao and Roy Jones, and lots of people have taken L's. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily think that keeps you out of the greatness category. You know what I mean? Obviously, Floyd did something very special, and not taking anything away from him, but you don't seem like you've fallen into that trap. Like, you seem like you're okay with being 12-2 and having had a couple setbacks.
Yeah, I don't think I hang my hat on my record. At the end of the day, I want my greatness to come from the person that boxing created me into. I don't want them to glorify me because of my record or being a knockout artist. I want them to remember me as somebody who puts butts in seats and puts on a good show, and whenever he's outside the ring, he's well mannered, he's caring, he's not just all talk, like he walks the walk. So I want to get back to my community. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good example to the youth. So I strive to do them things. I want to be a hard worker, regardless if it's in boxing or in my 9 to 5. So I just strive to do those things every day, and I think that sets me aside from them kind of people you're talking about.
Yeah. Listen, man, I had a great time talking to you, man. When your next fight is scheduled, man, hit me up, man. I'd love to have you back on, man. We'll talk about it. We'll promote it, man. We'll definitely stay in touch, man. And we'll definitely get on here and chop it up again for sure.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate it, man. We'll talk again soon, my friend. Thank you, man.
Peace out.
All right. Later, buddy. There he goes, folks. Andre Donovan, 12-2, 8 knockouts, fighting at bantamweight, man. Another Ohio guy, man. Ohio, man, seems to breed great boxers as well. I mean, we talked about some, man. Jake Paul aside, let's not put him in the great boxers category just yet, man. And I hope the audio quality of that came out, man. I changed microphones in the midst of it. I wasn't sure if I was getting that on his end or on my end, man. But hopefully the audio is good. We're always at the behest, or I don't know if that was even the right word. Had a long day at work, man. We're always at the mercy, I should say, of technology, man. But our motto here, man. It's all getting recorded and left in there. No editing, no slick tricks, raw, real, unfiltered, mainly because I'm too goddamn lazy and I will not go back and edit anything. It all stays in for posterity's sake, unless it's absolutely unwatchable and unlistenable. I have redone episodes, man, and ran them back for better quality. But other than that, man, my motto here, man. Book it, stamp it, put it out. That's the way we do it here, man. And of course, as I said before my guest got in here, the home of the most amazing and real boxing conversations anywhere on planet Earth. I won't speculate anywhere beyond planet Earth. For all I know, the aliens are up there looking down, watching boxing. Maybe they got a dope-ass podcast. I have no idea, man. But I'm going to stake my claim here on Earth, and again, I'm biased, that this is the best boxing channel on planet Earth. Amazing real boxing conversations with legends, luminaries, world champions, and fighters on the rise. We do it here, man. We run down the best guests. Your boy, Rexx Ruger, a.k.a. Mr. International, because we'll go all over the globe, and the conversations also are all over the place, man. We're talking boxing. We're talking life. We're talking everything, man. We just chopped it up with Andre Donovan. We were all over the place, man. You know what I mean? Most of it was boxing, man. We stayed in that lane, man, but we ventured off, man. You know what I mean? We talked about it all, man. 9 to 5s, kids, family, all that stuff, man. Life, how you got to where you're at, man. That's what we do here, man. Free form conversation. That's what separates us from the other boxing podcasts that have the same cookie cutter questions, man. That's not us here, man. That's not us. It's laid back, shoes off, feet up, chopping it up, man. That's what we hang our hat on here, man. That's what makes us the undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of boxing podcast. And I got good news for you. You too can be a champion. How, Rexx? How can I be a champion sitting here watching your podcast? Well, again, before I tell you that, get your notebook out, get your pen out, or perk your ear up, because there's not a lot to it. I'm going to give you the formula in 1 second. Let me just, again, take the time to thank Bantamweight rising star Andre Donovan out of Ohio for being my guest today, man. A great young man that really seems to not only have the physical gifts to succeed in the boxing game, man, but seems to have it here, which is most important, man, at least in my opinion, as a guy who, again, is 52 years old, been on the planet for a minute, man, and has figured out a few things, both the easy way and the hard way, man. So I like Andre's poise. I like his attitude. I like his approach. I like his ability to not push, not force things, kind of let the chips fall where they may. To not be consumed with as a young fighter, having had a couple of setbacks, not worrying that he's on the fast track to some kind of, big, glorious stage, and I got to get there in a certain amount of time. I like the way that young man is moving, man. So big credit to him, man, and I really enjoyed the conversation we just had. And now I will tell you how you can be a champion. And again, it's very simple. All you got to do is continue to stay tapped in with Off the Couch Boxing, because we are the champs. So that means you have to continue to roll with the champs. Peace.